A bunch of us had decided we were going to go hang out and see the first Batman remake. And so, but before we went, I remember one of my good friends and his girlfriend, she wanted to stop off at this Bible study at this other church that was in Garland, Texas. And she wanted to meet with her prayer group. And I remember sitting out in the car with my friend, and I asked my buddy, I said, why are we not going in? He said, well, this place is kind of like a cult. And he began telling me about how bad it was and how crazy it was, and these people are just weird. And I'm like, but your girlfriend goes there. And he said, yeah, I know, she's part of this cult, and it was kind of weird. But he told me for about 25 minutes about how bad it was. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the middle of telling me all these things, he said, hey, let's just go in. And so we go into this church, and I meet this guy. His name is Mike Roberts, and I get rushed in and to this little prayer group with about 6 or 7 guys sitting around in a circle in an old-looking kitchen type place. And there was a guy crying and pouring out his life about how bad his life was, and he was just crying. And he had these tattoos all over him, and he was one of the weirdest-looking guys I'd seen at the time. And then there was the guy that was leading the group was all crying with him, and I was just like, man, I've never seen men cry like this. This is weird. I began to believe it was a cult, and because men don't cry. And so surely this has got to be some kind of, weird satanic cult of of men crying, some weird deal. And so we went in there for 10 minutes, and I was kind of freaked out. But I remember my buddy looking at me going, see, I told you. And I said, yeah, you're right. And he said, well, let's go. And I said, okay. And right before we're about to leave, a guy that I had gone to high school with, he looks at me, he stands up, and he says, man, I'm glad you guys came. I just want you to know that I love you. And I was like, did this grown man just tell me that he loved me? I thought, this guy is gay or something.
Right.
Because in the church I'm from, men handshake, we don't cry, and we don't hug, and we surely don't tell each other we love each other.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy just told me he loved me. And then this other guy looks at me with his long hair and just a weirdo-looking guy. His name was Dave Anderson, great guy who still lives in Garland. And he tells me he loves me. And so I was really freaked out at this time. And so we walk out, and this guy, Mike Roberts, comes back out, and he's like ADHD, just freaking out. Hey, it was great to have you. I was like, dude, we're only here for 10 minutes. He was a little excited about us being there. And he said, come back next week. We meet every week and all this stuff. So we leave, and I don't even think twice about it. But the next morning I wake up, and I began to think about, for the last 10 years of my life, I was at this church looking for someone to tell me that they love me, show me in some practical way that they cared about me. And in the matter of 10 minutes, I had 2 guys who could care less about how they looked or what they thought about or what I would think about them tell me that they loved me and hugged me, and that made a lasting impact. And I went back the next week. I couldn't get anybody to go with me. And I went back the next week, and I didn't stop coming for the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. And that turned into 6 years of being in a church called Metro Church, which I ended up making lasting relationships that I have to this day. 10 minutes changed my life forever.